They're not going to think that they picked the wrong person. They're not going to think that they've been biased. They're not going to think any of these things because they really are picking the most competent person. But they're picking the most competent person based off of the conversation they had, which is the only information that they've been given. And this is where we fail in our career advancement system because we walk into our boss's offices empty-handed, leaving everything depending on how we can verbally communicate our value. And this is a huge mistake that we make.
Hey friends, it's Mary, and this is the Mary Jervich Show, a podcast that champions today's working women to gain the clarity, confidence, and courage to up-level your career while strengthening your faith and living your dream life, all in record time. We'll cover topics like career advancement, leadership, personal development, faith, and health and wellness, so you can intentionally create a career and life full of more abundance, joy, and love. Let's get started.
Hey friends, welcome back. It's Mary Jervich again, and I am so excited that you are joining me today. I know it's been a couple of weeks and you probably cannot wait to hear the rest of this message. I have to continue to share this message with you. If you haven't listened to the episode from 2 weeks ago, go back right now and listen to the episode. This is a part 2, and we broke this up into 2 parts because we have to get to the root cause of what is going on with the traditional career advancement system. It is not only failing women, it is failing all people. We have been approaching career advancement in the wrong way for over a century, not even realizing that what we're doing isn't actually setting us up for the greatest success. And as we talked about in the last episode, you can see how the traditional career advancement system is failing us because we see the turnover, we see the burnout, we see the pay gaps, we see the position gaps that exist, we see the unhappiness, we see how people would rather switch jobs than go in and approach their boss for advancement. All of these things clearly tell us that our career advancement systems are broken. But what can we do about it? Well, let's continue that conversation right now. So we talked about in the previous episode how it's important for us to have strategy. But this is just one of the things that we need to have. There's also a few other things that as women we have to overcome whenever we're advancing in our careers. As women, we are typically more agreeable. Especially if you are a mom, you're going to be more agreeable. And this is why we see that there's an additional pay gap. And what this means is that, if you're a mom, on average, women earn just 82 cents compared to $1 that a man earns. But when you become a mom or the moms in the world, our pay gap is even larger. Moms earn 74 cents compared to the $1 that the man earns. And that is in the same positions, with the same education and the same experience. So why do we have these pay gaps? Well, one of the reasons why we have the pay gaps in the position gaps is not showing our strategy. But another reason is that we are more agreeable as women. So men tend to be more disagreeable. And there are many great things about being agreeable. And if we look at, let's just say, the jails, right? The jails are primarily filled up with men. Why is this? Well, they are more disagreeable. They don't just go along with the system. But as women, we have this tendency just to go along with the system. We have this tendency to think that people are fair and people will be fair and people give us the best deals. And so what this does is a couple of things. One, it has us not raise our hands and put ourselves out there because we want to avoid conflict. And this is stronger in moms because our brains actually change once we have a baby. And our whole life, our whole world, our whole mission is about protecting this infant. And if we're going to protect our baby, then we want to avoid conflict because we want to keep our baby safe. And so we will do everything we can to avoid conflict, especially once we become a mom. And so we become more agreeable. We just, what others are telling us, what others are giving us, we kind of just go along with it. And we do it. We're not even realizing that we're doing it, but we're doing these things and we're not taking these risks because we feel like it could be an unsafe situation. So we have to be comfortable. We have to get comfortable. We have to just have some awareness around this so we can be a little bit more disagreeable when it comes to our careers. Because those women that advance into the upper ranks, the ones that continue to succeed, they are generally the ones that are a little bit more disagreeable because they'll go out there and they will advocate for themselves. It doesn't mean that they're not uncomfortable while they're doing it, but they'll do it. They will risk the conflict in order to get the reward. Now, while I think you need to be a little bit more disagreeable in your career, I want to talk to you today about how you can actually advance while not having to go into conflict, because that's a huge problem in our current career advancement system. We shouldn't have to go into conflict in order to advance in our careers. Because there is this conflict, because there is this stigma around career advancement, it actually holds us back as women. And it holds men back as well, because not all men are disagreeable. So it holds us back because the career advancement system doesn't feel good. It's set up to make us feel greedy and entitled and selfish. And these are not things that we want to be associated with. So, and if we're not just being selected for advancement, we tend to feel like something is wrong with us. And so it can be hard to seek help. And we can kind of feel like we're all alone in the struggle, even though more than 50% of the workforce is struggling with this. So what else is wrong? Well, another thing that two other areas where we're getting it wrong is in our approach. When we go to approach our boss for advancement, because women do go to approach their boss for advancement, but how we approach our boss, not only just what we say, because the words are important, but it's actually more than words, because our communication isn't just the words that we're saying. And while we do want to say the right words, because words do have meaning, words do have power, we also have to think about how we are showing up. What is our body language saying? Are we actually presenting ourselves in a confident way? People make a snap judgment about us in 5 seconds. Whether you're a man or a woman, you are doing this with everybody you meet. You are deciding what you think about this person. And after that first 5 seconds, everything you think is going to be in alignment with what you think. So if you think somebody is very competent, you think somebody is very capable, everything they do is going to align with that. Where if you feel like this person is not confident and not capable, everything they say, you will align it with that. And so when we go into our boss's office, we have to be confident about what we're asking for. But here's the thing, it's hard to be confident going into your boss's office because you're actually wanting them to approach you. So not only that, but confidence comes from repetition. Since confidence comes from repetition, this is an area where we're often lacking when it comes to our careers, because most of us have not had a conversation with our boss asking for advancement. So we haven't been able to build this confidence. We don't have certainty in what we're going to say, but what we say and how we say it and how we communicate it, both verbally and non-verbally, actually is a huge factor in if we'll leave the office with that promotion or raise. And looking back, I can see this is one of the biggest errors that I had when I went into my boss's office. But even if you're prepared with the traditional advice, maybe you've had some wins and you've kind of outlined them and you're ready to go in and talk about your wins. What happens is we have basically set our system up to choose people based off of the communication in a single conversation. And this is bad because we know when we go in to approach our boss, we're going to be naturally nervous. Whether we're going in for an interview or we're going in for a promotion, we're going to have natural nerves. Everybody gets nervous when they do this because they don't do it very often, so they're not confident in it. And so when we have these nerves, it actually affects our voice, it affects our tone, it affects our body language. So when we go in, we don't go in with the most confident approach, one that's going to convey your confidence and your ability in yourself to your manager. And I was reflecting back on a time when I put a new hiring process in at work. And when I put this new hiring process in, there were a series of interviews. And after the second interview, my boss was so excited. He's like, we have multiple amazing candidates. And if he could have, he would have hired multiples on the spot right then and there. Well, this third round of interviews that we had was kind of what I'd call like a show and tell interview. And in this interview, people needed to show us their work in 5 different areas. And what they needed to do is communicate how they would do the job in these 5 areas. And so the first person came in and he was the top candidate, and he couldn't really produce much of anything. He didn't really have much to show us. And this was for a position that you would have a great deal to actually be able to show. And at the end of this interview, my boss was kind of upset and he said, Mary, we failed this person. And he was pretty frustrated. And so the next interview came along, and this woman was given the exact same instructions as the other person. And she was able to show us with confidence and competence what she had done previously. She showed us what she had designed. She showed us the client results. And she even taught us and showed us what she would do if she was hired into this position. And when we got done with that interview, my boss said, Mary, we dodged a bullet with that one. But when it comes to career advancement, so often we never get to actually show our work. So often it's just done off of a basic conversation. And therefore, the person that can communicate their value the best is the one that advances, not necessarily the one with the best strategic vision, not necessarily the one with the most competence. And so it all comes down to the all too important skill of communication. And while I think we can all benefit from continuing to work on our communication skills, we should not primarily and solely base advancement on these skills. But here's the thing, if you would go and talk to a boss, they're going to think that they've absolutely picked the right person. They're not going to think that they picked the wrong person. They're not going to think that they've been biased. They're not going to think any of these things because they really are picking the most competent person. But they're picking the most competent person based off of the conversation they had, which is the only information that they've been given. And this is where we fail in our career advancement system because we walk into our boss's offices empty-handed, leaving everything depending on how we can verbally communicate our value. And this is a huge mistake that we make. Okay. Now, the other thing and the biggest thing where we've really went wrong, and you don't want to miss this, don't miss this. When we go into our boss's office, we go with empty hands. And we're going in there and we're saying, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? We go in with empty hands. And what can this do? Well, this can make us look selfish. This can make us look entitled. And this is why we don't like going in, because we know that we're going in there asking for something for ourselves. And while we are deserving, we have worked hard. We do want a promotion. We want to go to the next level. You know, it's not like we're not deserving of these things. But when we approach it that way with an empty hand, going in saying, what's in it for me? We're actually not operating within the principles of influence and persuasion that we know work. So think of it this way. I have a son. He's getting ready to turn 7. He just turned 7 actually. And he loves football. He loves football. But what he doesn't love is going to bed. He will procrastinate every single night. He will think of everything that he needs to do, right? He will have a 17 item to-do list at bedtime. He will want to do everything, organize. I mean, he'll go so far as to say, I got to clean up my room just so he can stay awake because he wants to stay awake. Well, what do I want? I want him to go to bed. So I could approach my son and say, hey, it's time to go to bed. You got to go to bed now. Okay, well, perhaps he'll listen. I'm the mom. He knows it's bedtime. But most often, he still procrastinates when I approach it that way. And if I say, hey, you got to go to bed because, I need to get rest for the morning. Well, that's talking about what I need and what I want. And that's how we approach our careers. We go in and we say what we need and what we want. But what my son cares about is himself. And so if I really want my son to go to bed, I have to reframe the conversation. So I have to say, hey, buddy, we want to get you in bed tonight because you've got a big football practice tomorrow and you want to have all your strength and energy so you can win at this game, so you can be ready. And when I phrase it that way, he's like speeding around, trying to rush to jump into bed because it's about what he wants. And that's really how we want people to approach us in all areas of life. But the traditional career advancement system hasn't been set up this way. Instead of us going into our boss's office thinking, what does my boss want? We think about what we want. Where if we want to advance in our careers, all we need to do is go into our boss's office and give them what they want. Well, what do they want? They want the problems in the company solved. So if you can identify the biggest problems in the company and you can take the initiative to work on solving those problems, if you can add value, if you can bring monetary value back to the company, that's what they really want. And that's why the promotions planning system that I teach works so incredibly well, because it's actually built on the principles of persuasion, influence, connection, communication. One that doesn't say what's in it for me, but gives the other person what they want. Zig Ziglar says, help other people get what they want, and you'll get everything that you want. And it's so true, but we haven't approached our careers like this. Instead, we wait for others to tell us when we're ready. And then when we're tired of waiting and we've worked so hard, we either switch jobs because we're not getting noticed, or we go in and we are bitter, we're frustrated, we're angry, right? Because it's been so long, we're confused on what to say, so we're not confident. And then we go in and we ask and we talk about what it is we want. And here's the thing. When you go in and you ask for advancement, a lot of times people do get it, but they're not actually maximizing their revenue. And they also have a lot of stress around those conversations. And so if we want to take a better approach to career advancement, which I hope you can see now why we need to update it, then we have to go in with the solutions. And that's why I believe that promotion planning is the number one way for not only women, but all people to advance in their careers. Because it gives you an exact framework. You can actually walk in and share with your boss how you're going to be adding value to the company. And when you do that, they're going to be fighting for you to get that position. Now, of course, you should already be a hardworking employee. You should already have a great attitude. You should be showing up on time. You should be doing these things. But when you approach career advancement in this way, you no longer just have to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. because you know what works. And when you approach your boss and you'll solve the biggest problems and you write these things down, it's really important that we write these things down because now we've changed the equation. When you actually have a written document, you're going to have more confidence when you go in to approach your boss, for one. But two, you don't, your whole advancement is not relying on your ability to verbally communicate because you've actually sent something before you. And as Robert Cialdini calls this is what we call persuasion. And so when you turn in a promotion plan created and crafted in the proper way, you are actually going to be persuading them. So you're going to be setting the frame up around yourself so they can see you in the best possible light. And because you're going to solve these problems, you're going to be showing them your strategic vision, which means you're going to be able to go into the upper ranks. And this is why my clients earn promotions and raises year after year without going back to school, without having to overwork and burning themselves out, without having to wait for current openings, because they know what they want out of their career. They give their boss what they want, and then they ask for it in a meaningful way. And so, my friends, I just believe we've got to change the whole traditional career advancement system. It's not just about eradicating the gender parity gap, but when we change the system, and the beautiful thing is that you can change the system for yourself. We've been very focused on companies updating their systems, updating how they do things. But the truth is we can't wait for the companies to make the updates, but we can make the update right now in our lives. We no longer have to feel selfish or greedy. We no longer have to feel confused. We no longer have to lack confidence because we can go in a very meaningful way. And this gives us our life back because I know as a hardworking woman, someone who is in the workforce, you want to just do a good job. You really don't want to spend all your mental energy trying to figure out how to advance. And you certainly don't want to be caught up in the competition and the rat race and all of the things. So we don't like those things, which is why sometimes we'll actually be content at a lower position because, quite frankly, it's not worth it. But it just doesn't have to be that way. There's just a better approach. And if you'd like to learn more about this approach, then I just want to invite you to schedule a call with me. You can schedule an accelerated career clarity call where we can actually talk about where you're at currently in your career, where you're looking to go, and I can let you know if my promotion planning system is right for you. It just works incredibly well. And when I was recently interviewing one of my clients, and as I heard her story, it just reiterated how powerful these plans are. This woman was able to earn a 50% increase during COVID, where just 13% of the population was advancing. She was able to advance and earn a 50% increase. And not only that, her company previously had actually restructured and had cut everybody's pay. So she was in a situation where she was like, am I really even going to be able to advance? They just decided we couldn't have more pay. How could I possibly advance? But because she went at it from what can I do for the company? What does my boss want? She has been able to advance in a really big way. And she's been able to do it while working less hours and having more confidence, which it's just what I think what we all want. So I just want to encourage you to schedule a call, and I'll look so forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Mary Jervich Show, where we will continue the conversations. But I hope that you will take the time now to dig deeper and to really understand how you can revolutionize career advancement for yourself so you can take that next step, so you can continue on this journey, so you can use all of your God-given gifts and abilities to lead in your organization. Until we meet again, just remember, You're only one plan away from your next promotion. And God, He's not done with you.
Hey friend, thank you for listening today. Be sure to join us next week for another great episode. If you receive value from today's show, I'd appreciate it if you would leave us a 5-star review to help others learn about the show. And if you're ready to fast track your career and increase your income, impact, and joy, then head on over to maryjervich.com and check out the masterclass that teaches you how you can advance too. I'd love to hear from you. You can connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. This and so much more can be found in the show notes. I look forward to seeing you soon.